Yo, welcome everybody to another episode of Talk Your Shift, presented by RggiTV. Of course, I'm your boy Reggie. I got my brother Big Lou with me. Say what's up, Big Lou.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Great to be back. Ready to get into it. Let's do it.
Let's get to it, man. Big topic, big debate this week. Based on some conversations that was had on some, I think it was First Take. Gil was on First Take. Gilbert Arenas, Tracy McGrady was on First Take, and one of the conversations came up about Kobe versus TMac. They just mentioned overall who was better, the if then scenarios. If this person did this, then what would the outcome have been? We all know about the infamous Kobe and Tracy one-on-one where Kobe was keeping score and T-Mac said he wasn't keeping score. Kobe said he won 11-3 though. This for the record. But I wanted to get your thoughts because I was kind of taken aback by T-Mac's comments. And if you're not really sure or haven't heard about his comments, I can show you right here.
We have too many talented players that come through this league that are championship worthy. What I mean by that, if you take them off a team that is a championship quality team, replace me with Kobe with Shaq. I don't win a championship. You don't think I could carry the Lakers to a championship? Like, I've never had the opportunity.
Correct.
I felt like if I was put in that position to win a championship, I damn sure would show up and do what I do in the playoffs to elevate my team to that level. I just never had the chance. So do I get diminished because I never won a championship?
Right.
Yeah, that's what is it my fault?
That's what they're saying.
So basically, Lou, what do you think? Like, what do you think about him kind of basically saying if I was in Kobe's situation, if I had his whatever he had as far as executives and coaching staff and teammates and stuff, he would have had three-peat, and he would have teamed up with Shaq and he specifically mentioned Shaq era. He didn't mention the Pau Gasol era, which I'm gonna bring up later. But what is your thoughts on how you feel about that? Like, if there's any validity on your side.
Well, Shaq kind of ruined it with all of his dominance, man, because anybody that plays with him, especially in his young heyday, people are going to feel as if he was the most dominant force on the team and that
Right.
whoever else was playing with him was going on the ride with him, And so,
Right.
Kobe, in some people's eyes, don't get a lot of credit, for those 3 championships that they won back to back because they felt like he rode the coattails of Shaq. I'm not one of those people that believe that. I'm
I was
one of
there.
those people that believe that it took both of them to be able to do it, and without either one of them, it wasn't happening.
Wouldn't have
And
happened.
so that's really how I feel. But back to the debate of T-Mac. Anybody can say that, man. Anybody can say, if you plug me in, the if, coulda, woulda, shoulda, if I were in that situation or whatever. The bottom line is you weren't in that situation. And you were supposed to be able to make it work in your situation, which was not a bad situation,
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, anybody can say, if they were in Kobe's, position or whatever the case may be, and they were a pretty dominant player. Allen Iverson played with Kobe, with Shaq during that time. I'm sure he
Right.
might say, if I had a center that dominant, you know what I mean, I would have won, at least 1 or 2 championships, So you can plug a number of different, players, high caliber players in that same scenario. And I think most of them would say that, Kobe, Shaq, and even to tell you the truth, Michael Jordan all benefited from the coaching of Phil Jackson, and that's really one of the things that put them over. So if you get Shaq, do you also get Phil? You know what I mean? Do you get the same coach? Are we talking about the same exact scenario? If it's the same exact scenario, then yes, anybody playing with Shaquille O'Neal that, can, or whatever, it's very possible that they could have won a championship. Will T-Mac won 3 in a row. You know what I mean? I doubt if they'd have been able to do that. But could he have
Right.
won one championship? It's very possible.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there because I thought it was blasphemy, and I don't care if it is coming out of TMac mouth. So I get it. You're a competitor, and you feel like I was just as good. I was just as high caliber of a player, and I felt like I brought the same chips to the table, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't short in no areas on my handle, on my jumper, on my getting to the basket, on my free throws. You know what I mean? So. I understand T Mac's plight, but you are out of line, my boy. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just gonna say it straight out. You're not as durable. You also had your own set of individuals that had a high caliber of help. You had Yao Ming, who was a 10-time All-Star, played 10 years. He was an All-Star every year he played. You had Shane Battier. You had Rafer Alston. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're just leaps and bounds better than the Derek Fishers and the Rick Foxes of the world, but they're not. They're comparable, bro. Rick Fox is not leaps and bounds better than Shane Battier. Some people may argue that Shane Battier might be better. You see what I'm saying? Just depending on who you're talking to. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Like
again,
the
I
same
just feel
player.
like you said what?
Kind of like the same player, though,
It is the same player, but I guess that also speaks to my point. Then you see what I'm saying? Your cast of players was very similar. Outside of Shaq, and don't get me wrong, and some people will argue that Yao was Shaq's only rival. Yao was the only one that really gave Shaq the business. You see what I'm saying? Like if you really think about it, that Shaq, Yao's able to stretch the floor, his handle as a big man, his passing ability, and his skill around the rim with both hands gave Shaq problems.
Hakeem
He
gave him the
also
business too, but that's a whole nother conversation.
but yeah, but I'm saying that's youth though. That was also youth because when Shaq got his man body and he was ready to go, Hakeem couldn't do nothing with it. You see what I'm saying? But Shaq then Hakeem was older. You see what I mean? So I get it. It's the same with David Robinson, but he gave David Robinson the business. You see what I'm saying? He gave out the gate. He gave David Robinson the business.
He did. He did.
You know what I mean? So again, I would say Yao rival was his biggest rival in the Western Conference.
I agree.
And I feel like you had the caliber. Now, and again, the points you mentioned about coaching, I think they had Rick Adelman at the time as their coach, if I'm not mistaken. But they had the caliber of talent to do certain things, and they weren't able to get out of the first round. These guys gave up 2-0 leads to teams like the Utah Jazz and the Dallas Mavericks. You see what I'm saying? So for you to just insinuate that just because of your pure talent with the ball and skill at the professional level would just automatically get you there, and to just ignore the other intangibles that I know Kobe Bean Bryant brought to the table. You see what I'm saying? Like these are things that I watched. I didn't have to look back on tape. I saw it happen in real time. How he willed certain teammates and certain players. It was because of him. It was a certain level of understanding, like as a leader, that even Shaq didn't bring to the other to those and bring out of certain people that Kobe did. And just to insinuate that just because you have the skill set, now don't get me wrong, T Mac was a problem. It's not even, but just like a lot of people say, it was empty. The Orlando
You know
years
what?
was empty.
Let me throw this in there real quick. The Lakers in those years, man, they didn't get those championships easy. You know,
Yeah,
and when I say because there were a lot of competitive teams, especially on the West. I was thinking about the Steve Nash and Stoudemire's and the Barbosas, whatever in Phoenix.
right.
You know,
Sacramento.
what is it? Utah. So what I'm saying is I believe, especially when they had the rivals against the Kings, Chris Webber, you
That's what
know,
I just mentioned. Yes, like the Kings,
you know,
Sacramento. Stojakovic and Mike Bibby.
those
And that,
championships did not come easy. They
for
went
real.
through the fire to get those championships. And so what I mean, that's the reason why I think the coaching aspect is so important because without the knowledge of Phil, maybe they don't win some of those. I don't know. But because
Yeah.
some of those teams really took them to the brink. Without Phil, do you really win all of those championships. I mean, you see what I mean? Could the Kings have taken one or two of those or whatever away from you guys when, if they had another coach, let's say, for instance, you want to plug another coach in there, one of the Van Gundys or, whatever. Do they still win? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's just a really, really important piece to add in. And so the coaching aspect has to be, part of the conversation or whatever. I do not agree on TMac's talent alone. I think he needed a system. I think he needed a system. I think he needed a coach with the same caliber. And if you give him that, but he couldn't say it's him though. That's the reason why.
That's my argument, though. See,
Yes.
here's what I'm saying. I'm gonna agree with you to a certain extent because I do feel like being not at like a high level coach, but being a coach on any level for myself, coaching young kids or whatever it is in different various sports. For me, coaching definitely plays a certain role up to a certain point. And I just feel like there's sometimes coaching gets a little bit more credit than it should get in scenario-based situations. Just from my perspective. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of times those scenarios don't necessarily come down to a coach calling a timeout or putting a play in to give them certain situations, certain scenarios, or even a overall system. A lot of times it's individual greatness in those moments that bring certain teams to a victory or to a certain point in the series. And so those are the things that I'm talking about, which have nothing really to do with coaching. A lot of those times, and now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there weren't times where things got scattered and his system was able to get them settled and get them into a good set where they can get a good look at a shot or get a good offensive set or even a defensive set where they can get certain amount of stops in a row based on their defensive schemes and things like that. So I'm not saying that it doesn't make any difference, like it's not factored in at all. But I do feel like there's a little bit more emphasis on some of that, and some of that is just the individual talent on the floor, leaders on the floor that is willing certain people to be in certain positions and win. And my other point before you interject on that, because I know the coaching aspect is near. Even in that situation, I still feel strongly that the intangibles within the player, the certain things that make up the characteristics, to make up the mental toughness, to make up the fortitude to push through injuries or things like that, that have nothing to do with your skill set. It's nothing to do with how well you can dribble and lay the ball in. It's nothing to do with those kind of things. I think that in the system, which is to your point, within the system, it does factor in that those individual intangibles that like I said, like I feel like Kobe brings to the table was a part of pushing that system forward and making that three-peat go forward. So you just plugging another talented player in there I don't automatically see championships. That's just the way I see it. Because also you didn't do the things that were needed for your team to even get them remotely close. So it's just to assume that you're going to do that because you have a system now.
It's not assuming. It's not assuming. It had already been proven in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? Like,
No. But I'm saying, I'm talking about from Tracy's point. Think about it, what I'm saying. From Tracy's perspective, to assume that because you are plugging yourself into a system that is well oiled, which we know is, and a coach that is well established, he's also a winning coach. He's known for bringing teams together through turmoil and through a lot of chaos around them, being able to keep them centered. I totally get that. I'm saying that individuals, persons, intangibles within that system matters to drive the system forward. And I'm saying there's little things that I feel like Kobe brings to the table as far as his will, his fucking mental ability to block things out and to press through injuries that allowed him to push that system forward. And I don't think that just because putting T-Mac's talents into that spot will automatically equate to the same type of winning that it was with Kobe's intangibles.
This is what I'm saying. I think it was enough, though. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the exact same as Kobe's, but I think it was enough company with a Shaquille O'Neal at the height of his career or
Right.
whatever, the most dominant.
The three-peat.
and the best coaches pretty much ever, to pretty much do it. I think T-Mac only needed to be who he was under Phil's tutelage, and he would have. I do not think he would have three-peated. I said that earlier, but I do think out of those 3 championships that they won, whatever, T-Mac would have gotten one of those with the help of Shaq and Phil. I do believe that.
I wouldn't argue too much against that. My only thing is durability, but I can't be sure that he would have been there, and that's the difference.
Yeah, well,
And that's been proven. That's been proven. The only time we've talked about this offline, the only time that T-Mac team was in the Western Conference Finals, he wasn't even playing. You know what I mean? So
but give him the same scenario against the same team, you know what I mean, in the finals or whatever, just
but
plug.
you already, that's what I'm saying. But you're putting him in the finals.
No, no, no,
And
no,
I'm
no, no.
saying
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he might have been putting himself in the finals. I'm not sure.
right.
But what I'm saying is if you just say, take your jersey off, let me go in there. I'm gonna just pretend like I'm your brother. I'm gonna
Got
take
you.
my whatever. Will he be able to win with Shaq? Phil over there, give
I
it whatever.
understand that. Yeah.
I think he can. I think he's good enough or whatever. I don't think somebody like, say, for instance, let me not disrespect anybody because but there's a lot of other players that would not be able to do it. You know what
I
I
get
mean?
that. I get that. Yeah, we can agree that it will be a situation where I think based on all the things that align in that scenario with his talents alone and his skill set, he should be able to win 1 out of 4 opportunities. Because the
Right.
Lakers did go to a fourth and lost, so you know what I mean, with that same squad. So he should, out of 4 tries, I do believe that he would have.
Because look, man, and I know this is your favorite guy right now. Let's just say, for instance, for the argument, it was AI having this conversation saying if I had Phil and I had Shaq, there's no way I wouldn't have gotten a championship or as many as Kobe. What would be
Yeah.
the conversation that we're having? I would probably say the same thing. I don't know if you would three-peated AI, but I think with Phil and Shaq, you definitely would have got one.
Yeah. So here, and it may be biased because he was my guy. Most people don't even know I got AI's picture right up here above my head. Honestly, with AI, I do feel like he could have went. I feel like he would be a step up between Kobe and T-Mac. And here's why. What he did with less in the same conference as T-Mac. Against T-Mac or Orlando teams or Toronto teams with lesser talent, with a lesser squad.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That with
Well, we got to go.
T-Max, his supporting cast, if I can talk straight, T-Max supporting cast is historically better than AI's championship test with Eric Snow and I forgot the other dude name, Anthony McKee or something like that. I think it was DC, Derek Coleman, and or it might have been. I know Mutombo was on that team. Uh, George Lynch or something. George Lynch,
George
I think
Lynch
it
was on that
was.
team. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
like get out of here. Get out of here. That he took that team to the finals. And there was no reason they should have been there. And it was all because of AI. And he has the dog that I'm talking about, which is why I think that out of the 4 times he's getting more than one with Shaq.
You know who I think AI would give a whole lot of credit to? Going back to my original point,
Who
Larry
was that?
Brown.
Okay, and I'm not saying that AI's coaching and the fact that he had a Hall of Fame coaching staff helped him get to where he was. I'm saying to you, he still did more with less than T-Mac.
Agree with that. I'm gonna give you that one.
So that means if I put AI with Shaq and Rick Fox and Derek Fisher and all those guys, I think he gets more than one. Do I think he 3-piece? Probably not. But I think him and Shaq get 2 out of 4 for sure.
I don't know. I mean, again, I can't say. You know what I
I get
mean?
it. I get it. But
Because
I feel
again,
confident
it's just
saying
really
that.
more. It's kind of plug and play, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but I think it would be fun. Sometimes that's what people do on the little 2K simulators. You know what I mean? That would be a fun thing to do if we just had a show one day and we actually just took these scenarios, put this player on this team, and just see what happened.
See
What
what
would-
happens.
what would T Mac have done with the 2000 through 2002 Lakers? How many would he have got?
True.
Would he have got none? Maybe he 3-piece too. Based on what I mean, just his name and what the system, his overall rating based on, what he would be in 2K. I
Yeah,
know he was
man.
over 95.
These conversations are tough. You know what I mean? Because
It's
I'm gonna
hard.
bring up something real quick, just a little comparison right now, or whatever. Because another guy you really, really like, up and coming NBA player right now, you love AntMan. AntMan,
I do.
is
I
like,
do.
he's kind of like your AI point 2.0. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's my guy.
And so, would you say that Halliburton has gone further with less than AntMan?
That's a good question.
I mean,
If
because
I'm being
that would be the point that I'm making with TMac.
no, I get it, but I feel like their teams are more comparable than more or less.
I mean, I'm just saying it's just something, just a different
Okay,
lens.
but okay. So if I'm really thinking about
My
the
boy
argument,
he took him to the finals. He took him to the finals. You know
he
what I
took him
mean?
to the finals. He took it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not knocking Halliburton, and I was talking mad. Look, first of all, let me look in the camera and say, my bad, Tyrese, man. I was talking big shit, buddy. You know what I mean? I was, and look, y'all did your big one, man. You took him to game 7. If you ain't hurt, we don't know. You know what I mean? We really don't know. You might be holding that thing. You see what I'm saying? My bad, my boy.
It
You
was
know what I
right
mean?
there.
Yeah, he was right there. I'm not the biggest fan of your game. I'm just gonna be 100 with you. You know what I mean? And that's fair. It is what it is. We like our flavor. We like what we like. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got shit done. You got shit done this year, and you just you really deserve all whatever accolades you get, bro. Hopefully you get well soon and all that stuff.
Yeah, man, get
But,
well,
but
man. We hope you get well, man. I'm
we
not
do, you know what I mean?
we
You
not no
surprised the hell
Patriots
out of me,
fans,
bro.
nothing like that. Really, not
Yeah.
at
But
all.
you shocked the hell out of me, and
But
I'm
hey,
sure a
bro,
lot of people in the world.
you shocked the league, man.
For real, the world, bro. Like a lot of people did not have you there, including myself. I'll be the first to say it. So I don't really have no problem, admitting that. But being honest about that, I feel like their teams are comparable. I don't feel like any other standout player, maybe with the exception of Nas Reed, I feel like his game kind of helps add a little bit more than the help that maybe Hallie's getting. Maybe with Miles Turner though, because Miles Turner is a baller. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not really, like I said, I feel like they're really comparable. They don't really have a lot of center play. You know what I mean? They're not getting a lot from Gobert. You're getting defense, but both the teams play pretty decent defense. They don't have a
You got
major.
you got what is his name? What is his name? Alexander, Shea Gilgit, his cousin. He's a baller, man. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
oh yeah. I know who you talk. I
Yeah,
can't think of
he's
his
a
name right
baller.
now.
That dude's a baller.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
but I feel like
Julius, man. I mean, even though he came up short in certain point, whatever, but he carried them on a lot of those games.
no, he did.
You
He,
know
he
what I mean?
torched the Lakers. He torched it like he killed them.
Killed him, bro.
Yeah, he murdered. Yeah, and he held his own. But like I said, I do feel like right now, as much as I like Ant, and I gotta be real, I'm not a big fan of Hallie's, but he got the one up now. You can't be going to the finals and never been. I don't care how many times you've been in Western Conference Finals. If you take your squad there on your first time getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. And lead your team. You know what I mean?
With
Like,
with him being pretty much the star of the team, like it's
no, that's what I
nobody.
said. And lead it. Yeah, he's the leader.
He's
He's
the
the
leader.
leader. He got some help from Pascal though. Pascal
That's
ball.
right. I agree. Yes, absolute,
Yeah,
absolute. You got to
Pascal
give
ball,
Pascal
and he's got
a lot of credit.
experience too. From that Toronto
Well, he's a
run
champion. He's a champion.
yeah, right. So I mean, he got some big helps. Again, I still even with that, I still feel like with the Nas Reed and Pascal being on both sides, I feel like they wash each other. I just feel like it's kind of the same squad. They're just over middle of the road squads. They're just over like 4 or 5 seeds. That's how I see it. You know what I mean? Like they could be 3, 4 seeds. They could be maybe a 2 seed one day. You see what I mean? Like the Wolves was up there at one point. Up there 2, 3 seed. You know what I mean? So then they dropped. You know what I mean? Kind of fell to like the 5, 6 seed. But I'm saying like the same squad. But Hallie's got it right now. If I'm just being real, you know what I mean? Like whether they're pushing him for the face or they're pushing SGA, I'm sure right now, for the face of the league, with the MVPs and his demeanor, I'm sure they love that he's a little bit more reserved. You know what I mean? So that'll probably help the message that they want to push. But Ant's gonna have to take it. You know what I mean? And that's just how that works. It's gonna have to be on that real Mike, like real Mike shit. Like Mike was given a certain thing based on his his airness type of thing. He was doing things that wasn't seen, and ain't
Right,
doing stuff that ain't never been seen though. You see
right.
what I'm saying? We
No,
seen all
right,
that.
right.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? We seen people get dunked on. We seen all the attitude and the flair and getting in people's face. We seen all that. You got to win now. You see what I'm
Soon,
saying?
as soon as these guys went past, where AntMan, where he finished or whatever was second round, right?
No, I've been to the Western Conference Finals
Oh, that's right. Oh, sorry about that. He took
2 years in a row. Two
right.
years in a row.
He went to the Western Conference. Oh,
That's why I had him up there because I'm saying you took your team to the Western Conference Finals. You deserve to be up there.
yeah, but once these guys, surpassed him and went to the finals, it put him right back in the category with all the other young stars that didn't win. You know what I mean? It put him in the category with now he's back there with Luka. You know what I mean? He's back there with Ja. He's back there, whatever. The only person we talking about right now is Shea right now and Halliburton. You know what I mean? So
I mean,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
right now
That's
those
fair.
guys
I think he
are.
might. I think Ant might have went a little further than those other guys though. But that's fair though. You ain't won it. You ain't won it.
Yeah, but ain't nobody gonna be talking to you. I mean, you didn't make it. You know what I mean? It's just a
That's fair.
period point blank. You know what I mean? It's like it's great that you made it there. Whatever. Ask Chris Paul how much credit you gonna get from doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so
Matter of fact, you're gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse if you know what I mean. So
you see what I'm trying to say? Even
yeah,
if he made it to the finals even one time, it would change the scenario. You know what I mean?
that's true. I mean,
But
I can't argue
unfortunately,
with that.
he's only made it as far as AntMan did. You know what I mean? And so, and I believe one time. You see what I mean? And so, did they make it more than once? No.
Wait, who?
Chris Paul,
I think he's only been in it one time.
only one time, yeah. But yeah, man, nobody's really gonna care about the back-to-back Western Conferences or whatever the case may be if you don't win it again and somebody else comes. These other guys can't come and keep winning, in front of
Right.
you, AntMan, you know what I mean? And you still hold, whatever. You
I would
gotta
say Luca,
you
but
gotta
Luca
take
is
it like
ahead
you
of him
said.
though. The Luca is ahead of him though. I just thought about that. Luca did beat Ant to go to the finals and lost.
True,
So
true.
he in the same boat as Hallie right now. I feel like you know what I mean. They both took their team to the finals.
That's true too. I forgot. Luka did make it with Dallas.
He did make it. He lost, but he made it.
He lost. You
You
see
know
what
what
I
I
mean?
mean? And it was a good series. They did their thing. You know what I mean? They just lost.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
So
but like you said, that matters. It holds tiers. As far as certain tiers of where you are, especially your young stars, within that that 3 to 6 year, 7 year range.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Where you got that chance to either make that leap or you stay back down there with the rest of the pack. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But that's definitely a good conversation, man. I mean, right now, Holly's got it, bro. Him and Luca, I think, are up there. If Luca makes another run, I think he can probably take that mantle. But if SGA right now, they got to take it from the boy.
he's in a class by himself right now amongst the youngsters. You see what I
Yeah,
mean?
must be youngsters. I mean, he getting all the he getting the love. He getting the he getting everything, and rightfully so right now. I mean, you can not like his game. You can say he pushes off. You can say all that, but he got it done. And I mean,
He's now the young face that they're looking at. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
the takeover. I mean, because you got to think about
He
the
checks all
demeanor.
the boxes.
Demeanor, everything, the attitude, the fashion, all that stuff. He's into all that stuff. You know what I mean? So I think it'll go right. It'll go right. Right up their alley where they want to go. But man, it's good conversation, man. We gonna cut this one short. But we always got to check in with the mental health check in before we get up out of here. Always looking to make sure we set a positive and cultivate a positive space for all. We don't have no negativity around here, man. So if it's someplace you need to drop something on us, you can do that here in the DMs or in the comments, man. We could definitely want to be here to support all that black men especially, but all people, in particular, especially anybody that's listening. So we
Yeah, man,
appreciate y'all. We love
definitely. I
y'all.
just wanted to throw in there, I know as sometimes as men or whatever, we don't get an opportunity to be able to share some of the things we got going on. And, it's been said, many times that we kind of like just gotta, kind of like tuck your feelings and things like that or whatever and keep on moving or whatever. find somebody, somebody trustworthy or whatever to dump some of that stuff or whatever the case may be, because guess what, man? Stress is one of the biggest killers out there, man. And so just
For
make
real.
sure that everybody is out there and you got some type of outlet, safe outlet, to be able to let people know how you're doing. So just wanted to say
Hey,
that.
that's real talk. That's real talk, Big Lou. Of course, man. You got to let that stuff out, bro. I mean, you can't hold it in. Ain't no other better way to say it, man. But we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. We appreciate y'all. We up out of here, man.
Much love, much love.